thunder we've made. Seminoles Sideline, 365. AB and the old man, we ride. Mobile, oh yeah, that's right, pride live. Seminoles Sideline, 365.
Welcome back to another episode of Sideline 365. I am KB, and the old man is with me. We are back in a new year, new intro. Still tweaking it some, but old intro had the old year, so we had to do some tweaking. But
I like it.
Glad you're with us. We're gonna need some energy to get through this year, so I know we need a high energy song with this rebuild. So I hope you guys appreciate that. But let us know what you think. If we should go back to the old song. Yeah, glad you're with us. Obviously, it's day number 1 of the transfer portal, January 2nd. So if you're watching this live, you're watching us not live. We appreciate you giving us, watching the video. But to start off the day, want to get your thoughts. What do you think is the biggest news of the day, whether it be Florida State or not Florida State related? We'll go through who's already started to commit or tentatively commit. You know, that there's some commitments out there that haven't been totally made official. But let us know in the comments, what do you think is the biggest news of the day so far, not even related to Florida State? But we'll get into, obviously, some Florida State related stuff. There's visits being scheduled. There's guys being marked on the radar. And then we'll talk about the greater picture of what the top ranked guys in the portal are doing, and who they're being linked to, and how that could be, how that could influence what Florida State does as well. And then obviously what we'll start getting into is the college football playoff games last night. And what we saw there, the old man was keeping track of those. One was a blowout. 2 of them were blowouts. And then the Ole Miss Georgia game was a thriller there. So we'll get into those. We'll start with those actually, just to kind of get things warmed up and get things started, because those are the most relevant news from last night. So yeah, old man, let's start there. You were watching those games really closely, and you had some comments that you were texting over to me. So let's start with the Miami. Well, yeah, let's start with the which game do you want to start with from the playoffs? Because we've been on.
Let's start with the
Wednesday.
Start with the one that was by itself. Miami.
Yeah, Miami. So what did you think from Miami? I said when we did our show on, what was it, Wednesday?
Yeah. Yep.
And we did our predictions. I thought it would be a close game. I thought Ohio State would have the edge. But I was wrong, and Miami has. They're for real. They are for real. Obviously, they are for real. They're in the playoffs, but they've proven now in 2 games that they're going to compete, and they should be a title favorite at this point because of how well the trenches are playing for them. But what did you observe in that game?
Yeah, I saw the same thing. I said Miami looks like a beast.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that, but I don't play that too much. Oh, I hate Miami. I'll never say. I don't play that. I'm more into an objective analysis of what the hell is going on, and I liked what you just said. And I saw this in the other games we'll talk about here just shortly, and that is the trenches, the importance of the trenches. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, Florida State's not even in this league with these guys right now. Okay, now you may not agree. I'm just saying, trench-wise, on both sides, O-line, D-line, of the playoff teams still playing that we just saw, a lot of their lines look more built out roster-wise and performance-wise than what I'm seeing here at Florida State, which we have to rebuild our entire both lines. But in terms of Miami, I thought Beck did his job. I don't think Beck's some stunning guy that can just go back there and unload it pass after pass after pass. But he did a good job managing the game. He didn't make any major mistakes. And Fletcher did his thing. Who's their little wide receiver? What's his name?
Tooney?
No. I can't even remember his name.
Daniel?
The dynamic freshman.
It's Tooney. Tooney's the dynamic freshman.
Okay. Tooney. He didn't have a huge game.
Yeah, Malachi Tooney didn't have a big game.
But you know what? They were eyeballing him. They probably had 2 guys eyeballing him, which gives other players an opportunity. Yeah. So I thought Miami played very well, and I thought Ohio State would probably win because, they're Ohio State. They got the big guys up front and so on. but the two end rushers for Miami, Bain and what's his name? Mesidor. Those guys had a pretty damn good game. And you could see how a dynamic defensive edge and can get around those left tackles or use different techniques. And so Miami was impressive. Now they move on to play Oregon. Correct? No. They play who the hell do they play coming up?
They'll move on and play Ole Miss.
They'll play Ole Miss
on Thursday.
And I think that is going to be an interesting matchup. I think that'll be should be a pretty good game. And Ohio State is out. They're going to go out and start reloading again for next season, obviously. But yeah, I thought Miami deserved to win the game.
Yeah, no, and the only point I'll add is, I mean, I think what you're seeing, and someone I saw on X kind of said the same thing, is that the Mesidor, Ruben Bain kind of defensive line is reminiscent of what you saw with Florida State and Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, and kind of seeing an imposing defensive line and how it can win you games and keep the game manageable for an offense. And then on the flip side, the offense doesn't have to do a ton. They just have to manage the football game and put points on the board when the opportunity presents itself, because the defense will keep the opposition out of the end zone for most of the game. And that's what the Miami defense has done really well for most part of the season, especially down the stretch here, especially that defensive line, putting pressure on great quarterbacks, putting pressure on great offenses. And in the last two games, they've allowed only 17 points. Which is really impressive, but it's built around, like you said, those defensive ends wreaking havoc in Bain and Mesidor. And then they got some dudes behind them. But it is something that Florida State, we can say it time and time again, has to get back to. And I think you do have a couple of pieces, you found this year, but you gotta land more of those guys, develop more of those guys, because you see the impact it can make. Beck only threw for 138 yards. I mean, like you said, wasn't asked to do incredible things or be above a game manager. And that's the thing. If you can have superb trenches, you don't need an all-star quarterback. You just need a guy that's smart enough and good enough to make the right plays at the right time. You don't need a Heisman winning quarterback. So that's something that we got to get back to the basics.
And here's one of kind of, it's Tony. Yeah, Malachi Tony. Malachi Tony, a dynamic freshman, and he's going to even be better next year. So they got some talent down there. Now the question is, how do they get that talent? Is it the coaching? Is it a big money bag? Do they have some big millionaires down there and they're opening up their wallets? I mean, that is the nature of college sports.
Well, I would say the three guys we mentioned, I mean, Bain and Tooney and, those are Fletcher, I believe, I think all those guys were high school guys, if I'm not mistaken. I think Mesidor's, I believe, a transfer. I could be wrong there.
Yeah, but Tony came in under a bag. I mean, but he got a bag to come there.
But it's not just throwing bags at players. It's
I understand.
The right play and developing those guys. So because Hakeem Williams came in as close to a 5-star, and he's done nothing in his career.
Right.
So you got to be able to find the right kids, and like you said, and retain them and bring them in. And they have to perform. But the other games, just let's quickly go over those. The other games, from Alabama gets exposed again. 38 points put on them. Alabama just totally dominates them. Indiana is for real, but they are totally outclassed. Alabama gets their 4th loss of the season. I think it does kind of potentially speak to, should Alabama have been in the playoffs or not, the way they played. I mean, there's only been 2 teams that have put up 31 points against Alabama this season. One being Florida State and one being Indiana. So they ran into a buzzsaw, and they got exposed again. Anything you want to add to that?
I was a little surprised how that game got out of hand, and it got out of hand. It was 11 minutes to go in the 4th quarter, and I said to the TV set, Indiana, Stignetti, you need to start pulling some of your key starters on both sides of the ball out of this game, because the last thing you want to do is get your quarterback hurt. Now, he stayed in, the quarterback there, Mendoza, he stayed in till about 5 minutes to go into the game, to the end of the game. Then his brother took over. but I thought he kept him in there a little too long. The game was well out of hand with 11 minutes to go. Cincinnati is not Cincinnati. Indiana is real. Indiana Hoosiers is real. And I think everybody was waiting for Alabama to clean their clock, and then they would start the argument. Well, they didn't play anybody. They couldn't beat anybody. Well, now they've beaten Ohio State. They've beaten Penn State, who didn't have a great year. And Oregon, they beat them.
Face again, and next Friday they'll face them.
Right, and they put the most embarrassing loss on Alabama in their history, I think.
Since Florida State.
Yeah, since Florida State. So those two blowouts have not helped Kalen DeBoer in his coaching legacy there. So I thought, Indiana is the Cinderella of this playoffs. They are the Cinderella.
They're not the Cinderella. Well, they're a Cinderella in terms of them not being a blue blood football program.
Yeah, and people didn't believe in them. Nobody believed in them. Yeah,
I know, but they are the number one seed. So they are playing to their potential and to what their ranking reflects.
Yeah.
To your point, they're not a traditional blue blood. So until they prove it and win a national championship, no one will see them as a football power until they achieve that. I agree with you.
Exactly. And right now, they're on a roll and they're on a mission. And I think I heard one of their players being quoted as saying, listen, none of us were stars anywhere in football, from high school to college, but here we are now. Here we are now. This is our moment, and we carry that chip on our shoulders. Yep. And they're doing it. Yep. They're doing it. They're showing up. It's amazing.
And talking about teams that haven't really played anybody, people may have referenced Indiana, but it was Texas Tech. Literally hadn't played anyone all year. We knew that
they got blown
up. They
had
built a roster based on NIL, and they had turned that program around essentially overnight this year. Flipped the roster, invested heavily, got good talent, it seemed like, and basically had gone through the Big 12 with ease, going basically pretty much outside the loss to Arizona State, which is really the only outside, if you count Utah, wins against Utah, but haven't been heavily playing. BYU, they had wins against, but you could say, did they just, whatever. But they come in, go against Oregon and get shut out. And people say they may have gotten exposed into terms of the competition they played, or maybe the talent gap that is there. I can't, the quarterback play wasn't great from Texas Tech. They just kind of seemed a little bit, once again, it's one of these things. It's one game, so you don't want to overreact. And that's what I have to keep myself from doing, is overreacting to one game. But you got shut out. And this is an Oregon team that gave up 400 plus yards to JMU and a lot of points to JMU. And that's where it goes back to the argument of people bitch and complain about, G5 teams going into the playoffs and teams like JMU. I thought JMU played a hell of a lot better against Oregon than Texas Tech did. If we're being honest, and JMU had to go cross country for this game, go all the way out to Oregon to play at their home field. This was neutral site in Miami. So Oregon had to come out all the way out to Miami to play this game, and cross country for this. And they showed out, for the most part. So, once again, I don't think it was necessarily overly, it wasn't totally saying Texas Tech is fraudulent. They won't be better next year, but they don't play quality competition all year in the Big 12. And then when they finally do, this happens because they had to bye in the first round. On the flip side, though, I think it does say teams like JMU can compete, and the right teams, not all of them are going to be able to get to a playoffs and do something. But I think it does validate JMU's argument that, hey, we can fight against teams like Oregon and Texas Tech if given the right matchup, but also you are taking all our players out of the portal. So that does tend to say that you like the talent that's on our team. So you'll take them out of the portal. You just don't want us in the playoffs when they're all together. So I think that's another argument to that point as well. Anything you want to add on to this?
Well, I thought it was interesting watching that Oregon game. Especially with Malik Benson, right?
Yeah.
Malik Benson, who seems to have turned into a very productive player out there in Oregon, including punt returns, catching the football. They didn't have any. He didn't have any problem catching it. I can't remember. Was he our punt returner when he was with us?
I
don't remember. So anybody out there remembers, let us know. But
I think he may have done a couple if I remember, but I'm not totally certain. So yeah, if someone can confirm that. I kind of
Yeah,
forget
yeah,
that.
yeah. All I remember is bad stuff on special teams, including punt returns. But the Texas Tech thing is interesting because I read this article about a billionaire. There was a billionaire, oil billionaire down in Texas, who all the money that they pumped into that program. Now, that's not to say money is going to pay off in wins, but it's going to bring in players. And obviously, they brought some in. I think that one defensive end they have is, what's his name, Bailey?
Yeah.
He was a transfer coming in. I forget. He came from, it's not a super well known program, but he came from Stanford, I believe. He came from Stanford. David Bailey, I believe it is. The guy had like 15 sacks this season, and he made some plays in the playoff game. But the billionaire, it tells you what it's going to take to put people on your roster, and he's willing to start writing more checks, I guess, to build this team again. It'll be interesting to see how that Texas Tech program evolves here in the future. But that wasn't much of a game overall, and that takes us to Ole Miss in Georgia, correct?
Yeah, the game of the night I would say was the Ole Miss Georgia game, and I think it lived up to the hype, and I think it lived up to the hype and more in that I don't know if many people expected Ole Miss to come out with the win there, and come out with it. So I know you were heavily invested in that game, and obviously your niece is at Georgia, and so the family was very invested in that game. So what surprised you about that game the most? And I think actually Lane Kiffin was there. He was very invested in the game, which I still think is kind of weird because he's going to take credit for Ole Miss's success at this point, even though he's at LSU.
I'm not going to give him that, and I don't think any Ole Miss fans is going to give Lane Kiffin shit.
He's going
to
take
be honest
he's going
with
to
you.
take it and won't care. That I mean, that's
but you know what? You know what he needs to take? Because I thought about this. What coach? I've never heard of any coach. Now I could be wrong. Fans can drop us a comment here. I've never heard of a coach at this level walking away from a playoff team with a pretty good chance of winning it all. I think that's what he is going to get credit for. He walked away from this players, the organization, everything that was given to him. And I think that's pretty sad, but that's kind of his history, and LSU fans will not be as patient. And so I think that's what they're going to take away. So he can take away whatever the hell he wants. People aren't going to buy into that. They're buying into their new coach, and they're buying into the new staff there, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be a very interesting thing. I think they play each other next year. I could be wrong. on that one. But that was a great game. And my granddaughter, who is UGA senior, who will be graduating, I felt a little bit bad, for her going out on this type of loss. But she's been there under 2 championships, I believe, 2 national championships with Kirby Smart. So she's had her fair share. But that was a dynamic game. Back and forth. I thought Ole Miss had it when they had a 10-point lead, but then here comes Georgia back, and it comes down to basically a field goal. And it was a very exciting game right down to the end. The end was chaotic. There was 1 second supposedly on. There was a safety. That changed the whole betting line. I bet you people's betting lines just went from, I think, 3 points to 5 points. In a safety. Then they had to do an onside kick, and then there was the trick play of throwing it back and forth like rugby. It was wild at the end. Yeah. Great game, and I do believe Ole Miss deserved to win that game. Georgia was not far behind, though.
The thing that stuck out to me is that whether you give this credit to Kiffin or staff, they've done a great job of acquiring talent and getting the most out of the talent. I mean, Chambliss is a Trinidad. He's a great example of finding a kid that from D2
Ferris
And
State. Ferris State.
that guy's a baller. I mean, he's an absolute baller, and he may not be baller at the next level. I'm not projecting that. I don't know that.
You
But
can't.
you're
yeah,
not.
no
You're
way.
playing college ball, and that kid can play college ball, and he should have been playing college ball probably at this level for a while. And they found that kid, they signed that kid, and they got the most out of him. And now he's going to the semifinals. He was the best quarterback on that field, and he's been a great quarterback on the field all season. But credit to that staff for finding a kid like that, securing him, and putting him in this offense in a year, and allowing him to do something like this. These are the things that Florida State's got to get better at, is evaluating, scouting talent, and signing talent like that. In all positions, whether it's running back, kind of like Lacey, Ole Miss has done a great job, and that's
Florida State has shown, even with Norvell, they can get some guys, but they've had more misses than successes. Jared Verse was that hit, but he was also getting a lot of high profile stuff, coming out into the portal that time. But they were able to get some guys, Fisk, Verse. They've had some successes, but not enough.
The only thing I'll also bring up is the other reason I believe that Lane Kiffin is all around the Ole Miss program, is sticking around. And I think another reason he kind of maybe hoped that Ole Miss would have lost last night is I know Chambliss is he put in a waiver to get an extra year of eligibility, and he's going to go after that kid to bring him to LSU with everything. If that kid gets another year, he's going to pull all resources to bring that kid over to obviously to LSU. So I'm sure he's in his ear, he's in the NCAA's ear to get him an extra year of eligibility. And to your point, I'm sure he's putting his feelers out there to Ole Miss players that have eligibility to refill his roster at LSU. And I think he would have preferred that potentially Ole Miss lost so he could start rebuilding that roster, because now there's rumors coming out, and I think this can transition us now towards the portal, but there is rumors now coming out that there's going to be coaches that won't be allowed to coach for Ole Miss starting with the semifinals, that he's going to...
When was that rule put into effect?
Well, I don't know if it's a formal rule. I think it's maybe a Lane Kiffin thing. So this came out today at Yahoo Sports, and up right now, that Kiffin's going to enforce that. It's unclear that 6 Ole Miss assistants who signed with LSU but are coaching will be allowed to next week against Miami. Many are expecting that they'll officially join LSU and move on. So that's an interesting twist to this.
God,
so that would be the biggest.
Unbelievable.
And obviously the portal's open now, but and it does kind of get extended for some of these these teams in the portal that are playing right now. Their period of time for those kids to jump in does get extended, but also got LSU is in the playoffs, so they're looking around right now. They're shopping right now, and
of course
he doesn't have his full staff. He may be saying, "Hey guys." I think he honestly did want Ole Miss to lose, because he wants to go after those players. He wants his coaches, and he wants to start building the LSU roster back, because it needs some rebuilding. So I believe this report, but if this were to come to fruition, those coaches are not available for Miami. Oh, it's going to be an S show. It's going to be a total S show next week.
Do you think so?
The media will be covering this. I don't think it'll.
What would you do?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to affect the result, because I think coaching does have to come into play. But look at how LSU played or Ole Miss played last night without Lane Kiffin. They play at their best game of the season, I would say, one of their best games of the season without their former head coach. So I don't know how much these assistants play into the success, like how important they are. I don't think they will necessarily impact win or loss, but it'll be a bigger media story than anything, I believe. And it looks bad on Lane Kiffin.
Wow.
It once again looks bad on Lane Kiffin for a move like this. But
if he self-imposes a rule, there's no NCAA rule of CFB playoff rule that I'm aware of that says any coach can't coach into the semifinals or the finals. There's no rule like that. It would be LSU and Lane Kiffin saying that, or it would be Ole Miss administration saying that. It would. There's no other thing that says that. I think that's if Lane Kiffin does that, horrible thing for him to do, a horrible thing to do to these assistants, a horrible thing to do to the Ole Miss players, and that would just he has. his legacy is in tatters now. It would be shredded and burned and buried if he tries to do that and poach those coaches away before this run is done. Okay, that's unbelievable. And I don't. If I was an assistant coach at Ole Miss on a run like this, and he said, "If you don't come now, don't come ever," I'd probably say, "You got it. You got it. It's been fun. I'm staying at Ole Miss. I'm staying at Ole Miss."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I really believe that. That's my personality. That's my character. I can't speak for yourself, you know?
Yeah. I just thought it was an interesting development there. And
Very
we'll see what
interesting.
happened. So yes, let's talk about portal and let's talk about some news.
Yep.
Obviously,
Yep.
things are developing here and there. We talked about a little bit, two new things that popped up for Florida State in terms of people leaving or looking like they were leaving. KJ Simpson jumped into the portal, so you lose some defensive
Sampson.
line.
KJ
KJ
Sampson. Yeah, KJ
jumped
Sampson.
into the portal. And
Yep.
this could be, I feel like this could be a retention play. Potentially, he's obviously a reserve lineman for the past 2 seasons. He only 22 tackles, 1.5 for loss, redshirt in 2023. I think you would like this as to continue to keep him to see if he could compete for a starting spot. Like you said, you're gonna have to fill out the trenches. If you could keep this guy once again for cheap, I don't think he's going to get big time offers just based on his tape and based on his experience. He's not going to go to a high level SEC Big Ten team. So this may be, once again, a little bit of a leverage play just to kind of battle with Florida State to say, well, you need trench players. Can I get a little bit more money out of Florida State for them to retain me? Just because I don't think he's going to get a ton of interest out there. And probably Florida State still is probably the best position for him if he wants to continue to play. Because I do think he'll get some playing time. But you cannot obviously overpay for KJ. I think there'll be a lot more other productive guys you could bring in that could fill that gap. So that was an update there. Like I said, I don't think it's a major loss either way, but it's definitely a depth piece that you'll have to replace if he does stay in the portal and doesn't come back. Any thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you. He is a depth piece. He was starting to work his way a little bit more into the rotation. I think he would be a bigger contributor if he comes back. You know, he'll have 1 year under his belt with Tony White's defense. So I think his development is better for him to stay and try to get money out of Florida State. Now, what we're seeing is, and what I know you'll probably bring up next, the guys who said they were going to the portal, it was, quote, expected them to go portal, but all of a sudden now it's expected they'll return. So there's, as we've said, and I've said in previous episodes, people can go back and look. This is leverage. It's business leverage against Florida State, business leverage against portal teams to benefit the player and their agent. I get it. I'm not against that. Okay, that's where we are now. It's a business world. That's what these guys are doing. And I'll let you tell us who are the big names coming back.
Well, there's another player who's leaving. You're losing your starting punter, which is significant because
that's it. That's an interesting move. Yeah.
Mac is putting himself in the portal, which is interesting because he was your starter, and you punted a lot last year. Well, a good amount. I wouldn't say a lot. I wouldn't say a lot, but he got a lot of action. He got a decent amount of action. 28 punts on the attempts on the year.
Yeah.
Decent numbers. I wouldn't say he was the issue on special teams. I think he did a decent job. But it is interesting to see a kid like this who. He was a freshman last year, I believe, and so he would have the starting position unless they told him differently. Now, could you go out and maybe get a more senior punter that maybe can do better? Yes, but once again, it would be better to retain than to replace, in my opinion, for this. Unless there was a serious conversation where they truly looked at the tape and said, this guy isn't getting it within the 20-yard line enough for us, and we think that he is a detriment to our special team. So
or he can't kick it out of bounds when we need it. He may, punters have certain skills. The best ones, have really, really, really good skills.
But
and
he only allowed 3
not.
returns on his kicks this year. So I didn't see. Yeah, he had another 41 yards. Not amazing, but not bad either. So
Right,
it's just an interesting development there. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. So we'll see how that pans out. Now, in terms of the guys that have,
Yeah.
you want to add something to that?
No, I was just going to say, I think he's just testing the waters.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing that they have to remember. Once they put their name officially into the portal, their team, FSU in this case, can say, okay, you're done. We don't, if you could ask us if you can come back, but we may not have a position on the roster for you.
Yep.
And we may not offer you as much as we were offering you, and you could lose your entire scholarship. So there are risks when you go into the portal.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, guys that we know have been confirmed that have been retained, just to touch on this because we talked about it a little bit on Wednesday, but obviously you're getting Rawls back, which is a good sign. You're getting Deuce Robinson back, which is a great sign, but he hadn't actually entered. It was just kind of, will he or won't he go draft? Or will he, what is he going to do? I think the biggest thing in terms of Deuce Robinson is that, one, the announcement kind of that he made, I think was a strong marketing thing for your program. The way they made like the video, the way he talked about the program, things like that. That was a great thing for you to do marketing wise right before the portal opened. And I think some of that was strategic. That video and what he said and everything he said, that was a great way for you to say, hey, if we're looking to recruit players around him for this offense and a quarterback, things of that nature, I thought this was a smart way. And they may have locked this up for a week. They probably did lock this up, have him locked up for a week, the way that they had produced this kind of video. So I thought this was a great,
and Bill Campbell Stadium,
a great production and a great way to, because they launched this video on January 1st, the day before the portal. So I thought this is a huge win for the offense. Huge win for you, like I said, to get a quarterback out of the portal that you want, because you get to throw to an all-ACC receiver, obviously, and a guy that got Tommy out of the jams a lot last year in terms of 50-50 balls. And I think this is a good move for him, honestly. I think we obviously think that Deuce needs to come back and work on his game a little bit. I don't think he would have been a top 3 round draft pick yet. And I think they probably paid him what he was worth, which is good for him. So I think this is a great move for all sides, and it's great right before the portal opening. In terms of other guys,
well, wait a minute. Let me comment on him before you move on.
Yeah.
And I agree with everything you're saying. I think this is the number. Listen, you're not only going to go to the portal to bring guys in, you need to retain key pieces on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Deuce Robinson is your number 1 offensive player who has eligibility left to retain. And they've done that, it would appear. And I expect with all of this publicity, he is locked in for 2026. Now, given the legalities and what can happen and not happen, could they bring in the wrong quarterback? And he says, well, I've still got a week. I could jump into the portal. I don't know. I don't know what he has to sign to say I'm in. I would imagine that's an NIL deal that he would sign. But here's the deal. They've retained their number 1 wide receiver offensive threat. And that's a very, very good thing. Now, before you move on, I want to move back a step when we were just talking about Max Chimonto, the punter. One of our viewers posted, and that's Marty V. I'm going to put Marty back up here. Ethan Post. Most people probably never heard of Ethan Post. Ethan Post was a 5-star guy, punter, coming out of, looks like Mayo High School in Minnesota, 5-star punter. He's a big guy. He's like 6'3", 230. And he is on the Florida State roster. So apparently, maybe this guy could take over the punting duties. I didn't even know who he was, to be honest, but let's give him a little credit. He's probably going to get a shot here to be the punter in 2026 here. Okay?
Yeah.
So let's roll on, but I wanted to clear that up, and thank you to Marty for bringing that to our attention. Thanks.
Yep. Good call out there. The other retention piece, which I think is an important one, we talked about this in terms of his potential loss. I said it was bigger because of the depth. It was a more of a, you can't lose all your defensive backs, but it looks like you're going to be retaining Ashland Barker, which I think, once again, I don't think he's an all ACC guy, but he's obviously a good player who knows the system and has experience. And it was rated decently last year. Once again, not an all-star, but he's kind of steadily improved since he's got here, and once again graded out decently. And I think this is, once again, a good sign for Florida State that you don't have to go out and replace, go out and try to find someone to replace that type of production. And this is a guy, once again, you got from JUCO 2 years ago, and has kind of worked his way through the system and things like that. So I think this is a smart retention piece. He had 3.5 sacks this year, which is the most since Derwin James had in 2015, our second most since Derwin James had. So he's gotten better, and I think if he can take another step, obviously that investment would bear fruit. So yeah, I think this is another good retention or another good smart move by the staff to keep this guy in house versus you trying to go source and get another defensive back, because you are, once again, you are thin there. You've lost guys, younger guys, and we're going to need some of those younger guys, additional young guys to step up, like Lester and Howard and things like that, as well as new some other guy. So it's good to have these veteran pieces back that know the system and have it, but we're also still going to need some of those younger kids who've been here for 2 years, or Max Redmond, who's been here for a freshman year. We need some of those younger pieces to mesh with these veterans, and also keep some of that, I hate to say it like Mike Norvell, but keep some of the culture intact without having to infuse transfers in every starting position. Guys that, like you talked about, have been in the 3-3-5 for a year and can kind of coach the younger guys or coach the transfers they bring in to, like, hey, you need to be here, you need to be here. You kind of have those captains who have been in the system for at least a year or know the terminology. So I think it's important to keep those guys in house as much as possible, as long as they're not totally trash performance wise. And I think Ashland Parker is a serviceable defensive back. By no means an all-star, but maybe he proves us wrong this year. But I think it's a good retention. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said there. I see him as a depth piece, not necessarily as a full-time starter. I don't see him in that role, but I think he brings enough ability and experience now from the program if he wants to take the next step. It's like any individual, be it you, be it me. What do we expect out of ourselves? How much are we willing to put into what we're pursuing, right? How, am I willing to listen to? He's going to have a new defensive back coach, Blue Adams, who's coming over from Michigan State. And if he takes a positive view of, I can learn something new. I learned a lot from Patrick Surtain. I'm going to learn something from Blue Adams, and I'm going to work my ass off. I mean, if he wants to go and play at the next level. So I think it's a good move by him, and I don't think he was going to find something real dynamic deal out there in the portal. So I think it's a good piece. I won't say a critical piece, but a good piece to get back in the defensive backfield.
He's a guy I think that could have gotten some looks from other ACC teams. He got a lot of snaps with Florida State.
Oh, I think he would have. I think he would have found a home. But is it worth it? If North Carolina State wants to bring in, what are they giving me to make the jump? I'm comfortable with my teammates. I love playing in Tallahassee. I know the defense here. Right? I mean, if you're looking at a job, why am I here? And what is it I'm going out to this new place for? Or what is it I'm dissatisfied with here that's going to make me change,
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think anybody in any job or any business.
And on that note, in terms of staying or going, and could a guy with upside have gotten looks, Landon Thomas, it seems, is coming back as well. So another guy who it looked like stated was going to be jumping in the portal, looks like he will be staying as well. And if you go back to our old shows, if you want to see our initial reaction to this and what looks like, but it looks like he will be, according to reports from Noles 24/7, he will be coming back after was a disappointing 2025. I think that disappointment is a lot on the coaching staff in terms of his usage or lack thereof usage. Um, and hopefully, and I think it will be, we'll see a lot more of him hopefully being utilized in this upcoming season. As you can see here, he only had 6 targets on the year, 2 of them being touchdowns. And I think this is a guy that we talk about retention of targeted high school players, guys with high upside, high talent, and we saw some of that his freshman year, his abilities, and we saw some of the abilities on those touchdown catches this year. He just never got really incorporated in the offense this year, and it really kind of was head scratching. But you lose Pittman, and I think the staff looks at this and says, "Hey, we either go all in on Landon." We either double down and say, Pittman, we're going to pay you X to come back and we're going to pay you more to retain you, or we say, Landon, we're all in on you. We'll pay you a little bit less than Pittman. You're obviously not saying that to him, but I think you could get Landon back for a little bit less and say, we're going to go all in on this guy who we originally recruited. We saw flashes his freshman year. We believe in him, and he's going to be our cornerstone piece, just like Pittman was, versus going out in the portal and getting a brand new guy. And I think this is probably the smarter move of the two there, because I'm sure Pittman thinks he can get a lot more money based on what he showed this year, and I don't know if that's going to happen for him. So I think it's smarter to go with Landon, and then maybe Pittman comes back too and says, well, I'm not getting the offers I thought I was, and you can retain him for a little bit less or the same. But I think this is a smart retention move, because I do like what I see in terms of receiving wise from Landon. His blocking, I believe, has to get better, and I think that may be the reason why he's not always on the field. But I think this is a smart retention piece. What do you think?
I agree with most of what you just said. I think that, and again, let's make sure we say something. When we make these statements, like you quoted the service that said he's expected back. The word is expected. He's expected to stay. I'm starting to really tune in on the official site of Florida State, Seminoles.com, who's on the roster and who isn't. And I don't think they do a great job with roster quality control, because I'm looking at the roster and I'll see certain guys' names on there, like Tommy Castellanos is still on the roster from 2025. I get that. Well, 2025 is over, Florida State. Why haven't you updated that? Is Castellanos still on the football team? Maybe that's an academic thing. Maybe I don't know. When does Castellanos go off? Did Landon Thomas? Nobody comes off the roster until they're no longer eligible or they've gone officially into the portal, which we cannot see. Okay, I tried to find that. We cannot see the official NCAA portal unless you're a verified coach and so on and so on and so on. So, and if somebody knows better than me, please put it in the comments. Now, Landon Thomas, as far as I know, is still on the roster, and that's a good thing. So that would tell me he's probably going to be back. But I don't understand why they have still people. Earl Little's still on the roster. He's declared for the NFL. Now, maybe until that window closes on the NFL, they keep him on the roster. He could change his mind. Declaring and being in the draft are two different things, I assume. So who knows? I get a little testy about the roster maintenance, okay? Because that's the official word. That's the official word, not expected and all these sites which do this stuff. Landon Thomas, I think, would be a good piece. Like you said, improve the blocking piece. He's shown to have really good hands and athletic ability. And I wish they would target him more in an offensive standpoint. The tight end brings great value. And I just don't see a tight end coming to Florida State if you can't catch a few footballs. I don't know what's a good production for a tight end. Is it 15 catches for the season with 4 touchdowns? I don't know. You know? All I remember is when Jack Nicklaus, the golfer, and his grandson was playing football here, right?
Yep.
And that guy made some great catches. He opened up the offense. Your tight end can open up your offense if you just target him a few times, because that linebacker has to pay attention to him, or the safety has to pay attention to him. That's up to Gus, though. That's up to Gus and the new co-offensive coordinator. Do you know who that is, KB?
Tim Harris.
Yeah, I put out a tweet, right or wrong. I put out a tweet. It was no disrespect to Tim Harris Jr. Florida State and Mike Norvell and whoever's running the show now, John Garrett and Alford, but Norvell primarily, they love to throw out these job titles. Now, I don't know in your industry if when you take the next job or opportunity, do people in business want job titles along with whatever the salary is? Because we throw out job titles. Okay, we throw out job titles very loosely, it seems to me, in the football coaching business.
Typically, if you're not going to get a raise, you'll take a title. So if you're not going to get
but you got to have one or the other, right?
Or both.
Okay.
No, it's if they're not going to give you a salary increase, then you'll take a title increase because then that's
okay.
something that.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So they could have said, "Listen, we'll give you the title of co-offensive coordinator, but we're not going to pay more because we don't have the money." Okay, and he's the wide receivers coach. So now, like Alex Atkins, remember he was co-offensive coordinator. You know. And our offensive run game coordinator. It's like, where does this stuff come from? You know. And now, GM, the general manager, John Garrett, okay, is now also called the deputy athletic director to Alford, which gives him a higher status than Mike Norvell, the head football coach.
Yep. Yeah.
But I like Thomas coming back. I like Thomas being retained.
All right. I don't think there's anyone else that's been announced that's jumped in and is jumping back out that I know of yet, unless I'm incorrect. So if anyone,
well, let me look at. I've got a list here. I think right now. I've been monitoring the portal. Not a lot of activity. A little disappointed that there's been little or no activity from most of the teams. What seems to be happening is a slow churn, a slow startup where people are saying, I'm going to go visit Florida State, or I'm going to go visit LSU, or I'm going to go visit Notre Dame. There seems to be a slow, and I don't blame them. I thought there would be maybe one or two of the top portal quarterbacks. I thought one or two of those guys might already be signed and sealed. I have not seen that yet. Have you seen anything like that?
No.
Have any of our viewers seen anything like that? I haven't seen it.
I mean, some guys have committed already, so it's not to say nobody's committed, but it just haven't.
How do you know that? Committed to whom?
To schools. You can see that they've committed to schools. So, but the reason why you're not seen is because these aren't the top prospects in the country. These are, some of them are offensive linemen, edge players, stuff like that. But you can see.
Any of them commit to Florida State?
No.
I haven't seen one announcement that anybody has committed to Florida State. I'm surprised. No, I think these are estimates that you're looking at.
Committed. There's different statuses here. There's different statuses. There's best available stat. This is committed.
Wow.
So yeah.
Okay. Didn't know that.
But the top guys mostly are still available and looking to, see these are predictions. They see that we talked about Drew Messmaker and the 2-year contract. It looks like he'll be signing with Oklahoma State. So yeah, that's prediction for him. A lot of these top guys though are still expected to take visits. They're linking guys like DJ Lagway with taking potentially Louisville and some other schools that he's going to be visiting. So I think I would expect a lot of these top guys to visit, like you said, before they commit in the next week or two. But for Florida State, they're obviously hosting a bunch of guys. We talked about Tucker Holloway, the specialist from Virginia Tech. He's supposed to visit today, I believe, on the official visit. So we'll see how that goes. I think that's a guy you should be able to lock up pretty quickly based on just he doesn't have a lot of production, but he'd be a return specialist, I would say, for you. That'd be something I think you would wrap up by the weekend. Another guy that they're going to bring in tomorrow is a defensive lineman from UCF, John Walker. This is the guy that has decent experience, if I'm correct. He was the 99 overall prospect in 2023, in number 24 player in Florida. He's played since his freshman year with them. Decent production. He did have an injury in 2024, but he came back from that, which is great in 2025. Had 40 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and a sack. Once again, it would be a good rotational or potentially starter piece for you with the program. Maybe a guy that Malzahn knows, obviously on the defensive side. Someone that they're looking at there.
Right.
So he'll be in here tomorrow on the official visit. And once again, I don't think a lot of these, depending on how high ranked these guys are, I don't think a lot of these talks will take too long. But I think John Walker would be a good piece for them to land. On the offensive side, tackle Bryant Williams is the guy from Louisiana that they have coming in on the 3rd, or expected on the 3rd as it's being reported. So this is another... obviously we have to rebuild the trenches. He's already got a crystal ball 100% to Florida State. So, these conversations, may have been happening for a little while. This probably isn't a kid that's going to get a ton of high level attention, but if Herpan likes his guy, likes what he sees on tape for him, you'll probably be able to sign a kid like this pretty quickly. But they're bringing him in supposedly on Saturday to see what he has. But big guy, 6'7", 315. We'll see how that goes. But you need a lot of guys in the trenches, like we've talked about. Now,
I think it is critical watching the playoff teams I've seen so far, whether they've won or lost. The critical piece is the interior linemen on both sides. I'm very impressed with Indiana's offensive line. I don't know where the hell they got all these guys. They got the one guy from Notre Dame. What's his name? He's got an Irish name, Cooper. I forget his name. He was a starter on Notre Dame's playoff run last year, and he switched over to Indiana. And this guy got the MVP of that game yesterday, okay, on the offensive side, and his quarterback, Mendoza, he didn't want it. He wanted one of those guys to get it, and he got it. And it's having these pieces I think it's going to be tough to find the guys we even had on our offensive line to match up with the guys we had, which that line stood up for the most part. And it's tough to rebuild an entire offensive line.
Yeah, Bryant Williams looks to be an okay piece. Graded okay at Louisiana. So it'll be interesting to see. They may see him as a reserve. They may see him as a rotational guy. It'll be interesting to see. Like you said, as they start scheduling these visits, it'll be interesting to see how they slot into our positional needs. This guy is by no means, the guys we brought in, like we talked about, were SEC, ACC, high level all ACC players.
Yeah.
And this guy doesn't necessarily fit that bill. But this is probably a kid that you could get cheap and cheaper and bring in as either like a reserve or a rotational piece and see if once you have him in, does he look better than you thought? And I think he at least has 1, maybe 2 years of eligibility left, depending on how 2023.
Because you're exactly right. You need depth too. You not only need starters, but you need depth because there's not much depth left in the room. Most of those younger guys have gone to the portal or saying they've gone to the portal because I don't see the official list. But yeah, you need the depth pieces and the starting pieces. You're exactly right.
Yeah. Now the biggest name I'd say that has been mentioned as supposed to visit on the 3rd is Hollywood Smulders. So this is the running back from NC State.
And we played him.
I'm sure everyone's heard of him, and he's probably one of the top players that's been tied to Florida State in terms of the portal so far, in my opinion. He's a dynamic playmaker. This is a kid that, if we look at here, he's a baller. And we've talked about Gus Malzahn. He likes to have his workhorse running back, his main running back. This is a guy that almost ran for 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, and yeah, he's dynamic to say the least. And now, I think this causes a ripple because this is either
I was going to say how is that going to affect the room we have, which I kind of like the room we have right now, to be honest.
Yeah, so this is either a proactive move because you think you're already going to be losing like a Chroma, or
but we would have heard that
Singleton
by now.
Well, you don't know that.
No, you don't. They could go in next week. You have until the 16th, right?
Yeah,
the 16th.
Yeah. So this is a kid with 2 years eligibility, but it's either a proactive move or you're saying if we sign this kid, we don't care about if we lose one of the other two, and that may be the case. So yeah, it's very interesting, obviously, and yeah, so it's interesting that they're being tied to this kid. I didn't necessarily expect it, because I thought we were fine at the running back position right now. It wasn't used totally in the running and the receiving game, so that's another thing to mention there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if this is a serious conversation they have with him. But I don't see you throwing a million, $750K or plus at this type of kid, unless you really think he's super like he raises dynamic ability, like he's your home run hitter threat at running back. Because I did think we were missing a little bit of that last year. We never had a runner, in the backfield that took a run 80 yards plus that I can remember.
Sawchuk was supposed to be that guy.
Well, he wasn't. He wasn't, and he's gone.
No, okay.
But I didn't see that.
But he was supposed to be the bell cow guy who gets you 800 to a 1,200 yard season. That was the vision. I mean, that was the vision, I suppose. But that vision went away quick when you're running out 4 and 5 running backs throughout a game. That just didn't come together.
Yeah, so let us know in the chat. Do you guys think this is someone that Florida State should actually go after, or is it a mistake? But yeah, I think
could Sam Singleton be that guy?
Yeah, I mean they're kind of similar, both 5'11". Sam's, I believe, a little bit bigger, but they're both kind of similarly built, I believe. And I think Sam's pretty dynamic in terms of his.
Could Komar be that guy?
I don't know. I think Chroma's more of a physical running back in terms of his breaking tackle ability and his balance and stuff like that. I think there's another level of development for Chroma that I want to see. I think there is another step he needs to take and can take, but he has to get the carries. He's got to be able to get on the field.
So if you brought in this guy, Smothers, and you had Cromar and Sam Singleton, there's 3 backs right there. How many, if you bring in Smothers and you have Cromar and you have Sam Singleton, those are the guys I'd try to go with, right? 2 of them are already on the team. If you want to bring in another guy, fine. You need at least 3 bell cows, so to speak, and you go with these guys. And whatever happens in practice, that's who you go with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't need to run 5 and 6 guys out there to protect roster spots. You're hoping a guy won't leave. That's a stupid philosophy going forward. So if you don't bring in another, I think they're going to bring in a running back. I really do. If they can get one. If they could get Smothers for $750, they'd probably take him. And then use these guys. If the other running backs don't like it, they can go elsewhere.
Yeah, and I don't know, are they seeing this as like, hey, we lost Jalen Lucas. Is this our Jalen Lucas type of
Lucas was not going to be it.
Because I mean, this kid has speed, obviously. Like he's, you see him hit that gap real quick, and he's calculated, hits the gap. But we didn't have this type of running ability. We didn't have these types of run last year, and I do think we need a guy that has a next gear.
And that's okay.
Yeah,
right.
No,
you're right.
Okay.
You're right. You're right.
You can't be afraid you're going to hurt someone's feelings by recruiting.
I thought Sam Singleton has that next gear. May not be as fast as Smothers here. But if you bring this guy in, I think you have three pretty good backs. You could then have a couple of other to fill out the room, but they're not going to play a lot unless there's injuries all over the place, right?
Yeah.
You,
No,
you
yeah, I
can't.
agree with you. I agree.
There's only one football, as they say.
Do it.
I don't. I've never heard the answer to the question, why are you running out so many R backs? Are you just trying to make them all happy? So
Yeah,
I
you're not going to be able to
understand.
satisfy 3 running backs. You're not going to be. So if you bring him in, I would expect one of them to leave. Absolutely.
Here's Dupree Hondo says Singleton definitely can do that, and he says he's even faster.
Okay,
So
yeah. I mean, like I
got
said,
some fans out there.
I'm not going to cry if this kid doesn't come here because I do believe you guys that Chroma and Singleton can probably run the ship. Now,
But we haven't seen it consistently from Singleton, from Komar. Smothers has the proven productivity. That's the difference. He's played a lot of reps. He was their main guy, I believe, and so on. But we don't know from these guys because they didn't have an opportunity yet, Cromar and Sam Singleton. Who else is in the room left? You know?
I mean, Cam and Jalen are gone. And
Who else?
they brought in, they're bringing, no, I think we bringing in another true freshman, but right now it's just, Rodell Williams is gone, I believe. Yeah, he's eligible.
He's gone.
Kazai is gone. Sawchuk's
Yeah.
gone. So, yeah, I mean, it's really, you lost a lot.
Oh, they got a freshman coming in, right?
Yeah,
A
we have one
4-star,
freshman. Yeah.
4-star coming in.
Yeah, so I mean,
okay.
like, adding a guy's not bad. You just have to be careful of how you manage the room, like you said.
Right.
So,
I just, you got to be realistic of what, but I think they're going to bring in a running back. So we'll see.
And
we'll
I think
see.
competition is good, but competition, I as long as you are setting expectations so that people don't get upset that you're out, recruiting their position. But I think competition is good, and the best teams have competition at all positional levels. And that's what drives people to get better because they want to be the guy. They want to be the starter. Playing 7 running backs is not competition. That's just idiocracy. Like
you're trying to make everybody happy.
Yeah, we're on the same page there. So talk about
and nobody's happy now.
No. And then we have 2 other visits that we'll mention. Defensive back Nehemiah Chandler from South Alabama is supposed to be coming in on the 3rd, so we'll see if that comes to fruition. Obviously, we've talked about defensive backs. We've lost a couple. We've retained a couple, which is great in terms of Ashton Barker coming back, and that is a good retention. But we're losing guys like Earl Little, Edwin Joseph, Jerry Wilson's gone. So we need to bring in some depth there, especially quality depth with experience.
We need depth I can't name a position that we don't need depth at.
Yeah.
And starters. And at least one starter.
And this kid's got, he played 608 snaps at South Alabama last year. We're not talking SEC, but yeah, he played a lot of snaps last year. He's 6'2", 185, so a bigger kid with length. Played a lot of snaps last year. Not quality competition we're talking about here. He's got 3 years left, I believe. I think he's playing as a freshman. So guys, look at his tape. He started at Georgia Tech, as you can see. So he was recruited by a big program and then transferred to get playing time, I believe. Best game of the season, though, was against Auburn, which is interesting. So that's, maybe that's where one of these scouts said, okay, let's keep an eye on this kid and see if he becomes available.
What could be happening too here I'd like to comment from our viewers too, and hey, please subscribe if you're new to the program. We love to have you guys here in our FSU family. Everybody's welcome. Internationally, across the country, you can come in and talk some football, and we're going to air most of your comments as it pertains to what we're doing. One of the things I was going to say is, it's kind of like now the portal is silent. It's like, it's like crickets. I call it crickets. I'm wondering, just like in high school, before guys start signing, they want to know where everybody's going, unless you have such a fantastic deal. You've got everything you need, you would sign, period. Some of these guys, especially at the quarterback position, which we see in high school before they start going out, is who is going where, right? And each of these guys must have their favorites that they're looking at. It just came out 18 minutes ago on Yahoo Sports Staff that the Ole Miss backup quarterback, Austin Simmons, who was the starter before he was injured and Trinidad Chambliss took over, he has now entered the portal. Okay.
Yeah.
And it looks like maybe Missouri has some interest in this already, but he has entered the portal. And also an announcement that quarterback Avery Johnson is returning to Kansas State for 2026. He had said he was going into the portal. So these guys and their agents are leveraging their current teams against the portal and making better bag deals.
Yeah.
So that's the latest on a couple of things there.
So another thing to mention here, last confirmed visit that I've seen, and obviously there's gonna be more that pop up here, is another wide receiver.
Yeah.
Which it's great. You got Deuce. You want them. We haven't heard about retention, and it's weird because now it feels like you have to get retention statements from like guys that haven't announced during the portal. It's like, hey, is LaWayne McCoy coming back? Is Micah Danzey coming back? Like, they haven't said they're leaving, but it feels like you have to hear something from them in order for them to know that they're coming back. It's very weird. And then I'm not blaming the player. It's just like this environment. It's just, you don't know what's going on. But a kid named Xavier Townsend from Iowa State is supposed to be coming here on the third or fourth. He's got 1 year left, so he's a senior. I believe he has decent production as well. I think, once again, I feel good about our receiving core, but obviously you'd like to round it out with some players. If we look at his numbers here on the offensive side, you can see he had 168 snaps on the offensive side. I'll pull up his numbers for you guys here in 1 second. But yeah, I mean, once again, I think you have your top three. You have your top three receivers if you're able to retain them. And Danzey, Deuce Robinson, and
McCoy. I like that room. With those three guys, if they could stay healthy now, and we know they get banged up because they're not heavyweight, built guys, except Deuce. Those guys could be dynamic. To me, as a quarterback coming in, I look at those three names and I say, yeah, I could throw the ball to these guys. I have a feeling, and that Deuce Robinson came back for despite all the PR, came back. He got a great NIL deal, and I believe he knows who Florida State's going after as quarterbacks because he wants to know how many catches am I going to have, right? So I believe he knows who the top two quarterback Florida State's going to go after. I really do, and that there are serious discussions behind the scenes.
I agree with you. And yeah, so this just close it on this receiver. I don't think is coming in expecting to be number one. I think once again, it's a rotational guy, a depth piece, 200 yards last year, not a big contributor, but they see something enough that they want to bring him in, have a chat with him. Once again, this would be a low salary type of hit for Florida State. So yeah, and just brings some depth because you lost Boggs. So and this would indicate if they're looking at guys like this that they're not going to try to pay Boggs to come back. Which
you might see Boggs come back. He is a guy you would probably open the door again if he doesn't get the interest he wants. You never say never. Never say never. But if you could get Boggs maybe to come back, because you could still call these guys up. He's in the portal. You can still talk to the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I imagine our wide receivers coach there is talking to him. And he's saying to him, if you can get a significant better deal, go.
Yeah. Sure.
There's no hard feelings. There's not this, you suck and people it's not that going on. This is business. And these guys are not going to burn bridges one way or the other. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Pot Roast has extended an offer for the defensive line. Arkansas State, Cody Sigler is a kid that we should have on our radar. So this kid, 5 sacks last year, looked like, was an all Sun Belt type player. If that is correct. Yeah, he was second team all Sun Belt selection 2025. Started his career in the D2 level. But yeah, it's been announced that by I think Noles Game Day, that they've offered this kid formally. So yeah, they're, like you said, they're attacking the trenches. But this is another kind of lower conference level Sun Belt type of kid. But look, he's got really good grades at that level. Tackling's a little, but good.
How many
defensive capacity.
how many years does he have eligible?
I believe he
Couple?
has 2027 is his eligible year, so he'll have two years, I believe.
2 seasons. Okay.
I believe he'll have 2 seasons left. So
Okay,
yeah,
he's
could
trying
be
to
a-
yeah.
could be a guy you build around too if he has 2 eligible years left. But with these and I've said it, like, you got to find these diamonds in the rough because you need a lot of them.
Well, these guys, and some of these guys are hungry. That's what Verse was. That's what Fisk was. They were hungry to continue to get better, and were motivated. Okay, so sometimes if you can find a right guy, Cody Sigler, he could really develop well for you, make big, make some good contributions.
But once again, but it's a risk though, because like you said, the level of competition is
Of course.
is
Of course.
very, very low, and we've seen them go after guys like this in the past too, or guys who are playing at smaller Power 4 or G5, and it just didn't work out. They never saw the field, and
Right.
So it is a risk, but you hope they're making the right, and that's why you have to trust the coaching staff that they brought in now, from the GM down, that they are evaluating. They're seeing something that stands out to them.
And as you said minutes ago, KB, we need depth. We need depth.
But it has to be playable depth. If this guy's number's called, he has to be able to come in and keep the standard up.
We're paying Pot Roast a lot of money to figure that out. Okay, and he likes this guy for whatever reason. He kind of likes this guy. They made the offer, and these assistant coaches now. These guys are working their asses off right now. This is when the fish are out there, and you got to go out 24/7, find them, get them interested, bring them in, host them at your house, have a nice big dinner, go out on the town, and say, "This is the place for you. Here's how I'm going to develop you."
Yep, absolutely.
And they're busy. They're earning their money now for sure.
Another kid that has been offered by Florida State, I believe, is Chris Jones, a linebacker. Linebacker room is obviously a room that Florida State needs to address.
Absolutely.
You lost Omar Graham, who is kind of a veteran in this room. And I think Omar's a guy that I would look to try to retain. I think he'll get looks. He's definitely not an all-ACC guy at this point.
He's listed very high, though. He's listed very high in the portal, I think. As a linebacker.
He's like the number one. He's like listed as the number one linebacker. And
he looks the part, though. He looks the part. Yeah.
But he doesn't always play the part, which I don't know if it's a system or it's whatever. But and that's why these transfer portal rankings, you got to be careful with them.
Well, he's played a lot of ball.
Yeah.
So if I was another team, I don't know. Let's pick on James Madison, and I needed some starter or depth for sure. I'd look at an Omar Graham, but I don't know how much Omar Graham wants to stuff his wallet with. Is he an NFL guy? He looks like an NFL guy. Is he performed like one? Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. And in my opinion, like I said, I think this is a guy that, if you could get Omar Graham back for a decent price, I would take him back, but I definitely am not going to overpay for an Omar Graham. But yeah, and that's why they're attacking. Once again, they're offering a kid like Chris Jones, a guy with 2 years experience. But you're seeing a trend here. They are offering guys at G5 schools. The Sunbelt kids, kids, JV
hungry
level.
And don't want to rob the bank.
Yeah.
Hungry and don't want to rob the bank.
Yeah, and this guy improved from his freshman year, improved a lot, and so maybe they're seeing a kid with a lot of upside, a guy like you said that's hungry, wants to prove at the next level, and can be a rotational piece. With
this would play in to your theory, and I think you're still sticking with this theory that they're kind of. I don't say they're the theme for 2026 is don't break the budget. We have a budget. This is what we're going to play for in 2026. If we can win 6 games or 7 games, we're going to be satisfied. We'll be satisfied. Okay? And we're going to do it with players that we're going to have to go pick a needle out of haystacks. Find the needles in the haystack if possible. We're not going to pay them a ton of money, except some of the guys we wanted to retain based on proven performance. I think that's what you're kind of saying here. That seems to be the theme. Now, with that, I want you to answer this question. Jay Garrett, he's our general manager and assistant athletic director at Deputy AD. Champ says he's making the decisions, not the coaches, not Norvell. Do you believe that's happening this fast? And I assume when Garrett hit the ground, he hit it running, and he's going to take full power and authority and responsibility. And he's now making sure any of these coaches who are offering anybody, he wants to know why. I want to see why and why you believe in this guy.
Are you talking me? Or
I'm talking to you.
Garrett?
I'm talking to you. Do you believe that's what he's doing right now? He is taking control over who the coaches are bringing in, or he's kind of laying back and kind of easing into the system and letting Norvell and coaches do most of that at this point?
No, because Garrett's going to be judged on this year.
He is going to be judged.
Yeah, so
yeah.
I don't believe he's sitting back and saying, let's see what you do. I think he's actively giving putting his influence and his mark on who they're looking at, who they're offering, and I think he made
and why they're offering this guy. Yeah. Why do they think that he can play at this level and perform? Yeah.
I think he should be, like you said, I believe either he's signing off on every offer they extend, or he's heavily giving his input so he can say, I never thought we should offer that kid in the first place.
Because he is going to be held accountable, just like Norvell and Alford.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, no, I think he's heavily involved in this, and so we'll see how it works out. But you can build and win like this. We've seen teams do. Indiana had a lot of transfer portal guys from G5 schools, but you have to find the right guys. But you also have to have the right system, the right culture around that. You have to have the right game plan too. So it's not just. Yeah, you can build it this way, but it starts with evaluation and development. So yeah, and you have a new staff guys. So it'll be interesting, like you said, how it works out. But we won't know until for a while. We won't know for 9 months.
Well, I think you're right on
who they're offering, though. It is interesting to see.
I think you're seeing that trend. You're seeing that trend. It goes along with what you had brought up episodes before, about how 2026 is probably going to play out. We are not Texas Tech. We don't have an open checkbook and what I read is between Ohio State and Texas Tech, they spent like $60 to $80 million in the in retention and the portal, putting those teams together, and they lost. They both lost. And we don't have that big a checkbook unless we're missing something here.
No. And I think too, like example, Hollywood Smothers, I think the strategy is fill a lot of the depth and rotational guys with the G5 guys who show upside, show spikes in production, stuff like that. Not guys that haven't played for 2 years and G5. You want experienced guys from G5. But then take the big bags and strategically go all in on potential big playmakers. Hollywood Smothers is an example of that. That guy can take the ball 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. That's an example of a guy that can change a game with one play. I think they'll strategically target maybe two to 4 players like that, while they're saving some money on the under the radar guys trying to fill the roster out. That would be some of my prediction, because and Hollywood Smothers is a good example. Quarterback, I don't know if they'll go. Let's go right into that. So far, it looks like they are targeting the kid from ODU. It sounds like he'll be coming on a visit, and he's indicated that with some War Chant articles. He's discussed Florida's 3 visits on his mind, and Florida State being one of them. So I expect Florida State to be quickly in play for him. And I think that probably was a discussion that you brought up before with Deuce Robinson, that, hey, we have these quarterbacks in mind. This is our plan for you. This is the plan for the offense. This is who could be your one of 3 quarterbacks that could be in play for you, who will be throwing you the football. Do you have any input? I'm sure they got his input on it too. A star player gets that type of treatment on a team,
Oh, absolutely.
And so
absolutely.
I think this kid at ODU is probably their top target at this point, Colton Joseph. And it looks like he'll be probably coming in on a visit very, very soon. It's hard. We've talked at length about this kid and what he could bring, and he kind of represents that G5 trend again. Guy with experience, guy with upside. Hasn't played the best competition, but you're not going to break the bank going after a quarterback where you can now spend that money on other prize pieces, game changer type pieces, whether that be on the offensive line, maybe it's another defensive end that you want to match with the seer.
Yeah, you got a lot of pieces to put on the board.
Yeah,
you got a lot of pieces, and they've set prices. There's no doubt. Maybe the quarterback thing is where they're going to fudge some, but they're not going to fudge on too many. You need defense. You need edge rushers. But, here's some news as well. Brendan Sorsby, the Cincinnati quarterback, who obviously has big numbers, played a lot of football, he is expected to take some visits to Texas Tech because I didn't think Texas Tech's quarterback looked that great. I thought, and I think he has eligibility left, the current quarterback at Texas Tech. I could be wrong. Sorsby's going to take visits to Texas Tech, and LSU. So it looks like Lane is, this guy's got big numbers, and in the right pieces, he could perform. So, but Florida State's not going to be in play for a guy like this, and he's probably not interested in Florida State, who's in a total rebuild.
We also don't need a quarterback that has no experience. No offense, but like. I'd rather, if we're going to go for a younger quarterback, I'd rather go all in on like the kid from Auburn. A kid like that.
What are you talking about? Sorsby has a lot of experience.
Oh no, you're talking about this. I was thinking about the Ole Miss quarterback. Sorry, I got him mixed up. No, you're right. Sorsby's from Cincinnati has a lot of experience. You're right.
Big numbers. Big numbers.
He's big numbers. I still think there's a lot of.
He's at 5,600 yards in two seasons. 5,600 yards, 45 touchdowns.
But who has he played?
Cincinnati. They play a decent schedule. I would take him. He has a lot more performance related against quality opponents than right there.
I don't see him being worth $2 million. I don't see him being worth $2 million though. That's the difference. Yeah. If we get Joseph for $500K, are you willing to pay?
You're not going to get Joseph. I don't think you're going to get Joseph for $500K. Maybe $750 to $1 million.
Still, are you willing to pay $2 million for this guy?
Not given the philosophy for 2026 that we've discussed. No,
I just don't. Look at their schedule. I mean, no doubt this guy could play, obviously, but I'm not seeing a ton of, once again, I don't know if in the ACC he could probably be fine, but I don't know if I'm willing to spend $2.5 million on this versus some of the other players who would be in the portal.
And I am unaware at this point of any of the top 10 quarterbacks who are in the portal have signed with anybody yet.
No, the only top 10 quarterbacks I believe who is close is the guy from North Texas. It seems like that deal is essentially signed and he'll be going to Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I like you say, whether it's Joseph's or someone else, you got to have somebody who's been playing ball. Not he's played as a backup. He's thrown the ball 50 times. You got to have somebody at least at the G5 or someone that's played some football. Okay.
And the advantage with Colin Joseph, like I said, I'm not necessarily a huge fan. I think the inaccuracy in the touchdown interception ratio does scare me a little bit. I'm not sure if this is a huge upgrade over Tommy necessarily. I didn't, obviously Tommy wasn't a great passer, and I think we have weapons that can spread the field. Like if Danzy comes back, McCoy comes back, Deuce Rock, we have guys that can run the field. We got to be able to deliver the football to him. I don't know if this guy solves that issue, which scares me. And once again, we talk about quality competition again. He was inefficient at times against bad competition. You saw the Indiana game. He was more effective with his legs. He threw 3 interceptions against Indiana, and most of his damage was done with his legs, which I know Gus probably likes. He had a good game against Virginia Tech, but so did everybody this year. I just don't like his turnover proneness, and I think that we saw our offense stall a lot due to the turnovers. We saw our defense not be able to get off the field when those turnovers happen. So that's what scares me with a kid like this. And I'm not sure why Florida State the staff is necessarily so in love with going for this, and I think a lot of it may come down to budget and like what's our number,
Budget. Yeah.
and
Yeah. It seems like that's it.
and
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
our experience to budget ratio? What's the most we're willing to pay a guy that has this much experience that we can bring in?
And how many years does he have left? Two?
Two, at least two.
Okay. Oh, well, he's a sophomore. Yeah. Okay. Two.
So
at least two.
Yeah. So there is that upside, but once again, yeah, you have too many holes to fill. You're not Miami where you can go all in on the quarterback.
Well, like you said, you may be bringing in two of these quarterbacks to compete with Speary, and O'Neal. That'll give you four in the quarterback room, and three of them will be brand new. And then you're probably going to get a preferred walk-on quarterback, that wants to come to Florida State. So you have five. How many quarterbacks can you handle? So I think the G5 quarterback coming in would be one, and then they may go after someone else. You got to have a quarterback. You got to have somebody who can run the offense consistently. He doesn't have to be a Tom Brady. He's got to be somebody that's good under pressure and can move the ball to the playmakers. If you can do that, I think you're probably accomplishing what you want in 2026.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll see how his visit goes. Looks like it could happen this weekend, if not a little bit later. But I am also, I hope they do bring in another quarterback just to see. But it does seem to appear that he is their top target at this point, for what I'm seeing. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see who else they look at, who they're inviting. There are some other teams. It looks like Florida is going to be bringing in the kid from Georgia Tech, the backup at Georgia Tech. It looks like that's their prime target. At this point, he's going to be coming in on a visit for them. We talked about Lagway. It looks like he's got visits scheduled with Louisville and a couple of ACC schools, UVA, Louisville, Baylor, Missouri, are looking at Lagway to be in the mix for him. That'll be interesting. Honestly, I think Louisville does really well with developing quarterbacks. Jeff Brom is really good with quarterbacks.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
if I'm
yeah,
Lagway
yeah,
and I
yeah.
want to improve my draft stock, I would go that direction. Obviously we got the interest has to be mutual. So this is per sources, people in the mix. But if I'm Lagway, I would take a discount to go to Louisville and work with Jeff Brom. So it'll be interesting to see. But as you can see here, these aren't necessarily high top 25 schools. So he is not getting the interest. I don't think he's gonna get the money he necessarily thought he would get. He's taken a discount from I think he originally got from Florida, which does make sense. He hasn't played the best. And it also does tell me that maybe if Florida State wanted to get in the mix here, they maybe could. Because I think they could be.
I think
I don't think
would
they
be a
want to.
risky move. Florida State, that would be a risky move. He comes in, stinks up the room, and then everybody's going to go on, what the hell is going on? That's a risky move. Risky move.
That list tells me, though, that he's not going to be a top 5 paid quarterback or a top 3 paid quarterback at the least.
And he's going to need a really good quarterbacks coach to work with him, to get his attention and tell him this is how we're going to do this. And if you don't have that, if you can't impress him with that, then he could be a real problem.
Yeah. And like I was just mentioning, looks like Florida is going to be landing Aaron Philo, who was the backup at Georgia Tech. This is based a lot on potential. So Florida's going the direction, and the new coach there is going off of potential. So taking kind of the opposite approach of Florida State, who it looks like they're going to bring in the guy, from G5. That's not to necessarily compete, but I think with more experience and versus taking a backup from a high major school.
How much experience does Philo have?
Little. This is
that's what I mean.
That's what I'm saying.
He's coming in to compete against other quarterbacks, but they believe he has upside potential, probably 2 or 3 years left.
Yeah. Which for Florida State, I said you could go after Deuce Knight at Auburn, go all in on a kid like that who has 3 or 4 years left, who is the prototypical Gus Malzahn quarterback, but you don't want to pay, so you're going to go after the guy at ODU.
Why is he leaving Georgia Tech? Aren't they losing their top quarterback? to the NFL draft or eligibility. So why would this guy leave?
Yeah,
That's interesting. Haynes King is done. He's got to be done.
I don't know if he's done. I would think he.
All right, to our all our family of viewers out there, is Haynes King done at Georgia Tech? Look that up for us, would you? Because I'm monitoring a board over here as well.
Yeah,
Look that up
he's
for
done.
us. Haynes King, Georgia Tech. Oh, he's done. Okay,
That's what.
So why would this kid leave? You know?
I would. Well, one, it could be a money thing.
Yeah, but he has no proven production. What kind of money is he gonna get? You know,
it's a good question. It's an interesting question. His quarterbacks coach did leave.
Fair question. Oh, he
His
did.
Quarterbacks coach did leave.
He didn't go to Florida, did he?
I believe he did. That's
did
what
he?
I'm behind too. I
He
believe
might.
his quarterbacks coach.
Might have.
Someone went to Florida. One of their coaches, I believe, Buster. Oh God, someone in the chat's gonna know it. I don't. Their quarterbacks coach. It's tied to. Okay, so Buster Faulkner joined the Florida Gators staff, so I believe that's what it's tied to. So he was their offensive coordinator. He left to go to Florida, and that's why I think there's this connection there.
Okay, there's a connection.
That
makes sense.
So now that makes sense.
Okay.
Why? Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
He's following his coach, who he believes in, who can develop him, and the new head coach there at Florida is going to believe his new coach and say, yeah, this is your guy. This is who I'm going to tie things to. Well, let's go. So that.
I don't know if they're going to tie things.
Well, I mean,
to him, but they'll let him compete. His former coach probably said, "Listen, I think you get a good chance to come in here and compete. You know, you're not going to promise a kid anything or a player. I don't call them kids anymore. They're getting paid too much money to be called kids. They're getting paid. They're professional as far as I'm concerned."
Other things we predicted correctly. Ernie Sims is expected to be promoted to FSU coach. So we talked about that we thought that would happen internally. But I do think this is going to happen. Okay, I got it. Expected. I believe this will happen.
Well, you know why I say that?
I don't care.
Why I say that? Seminoles.com just came out, I think yesterday or today, with the announcement on
the running back
Cam Martin. Yeah, they just now came out with that. We've been talking about that for weeks. And it's like, how long does it take? It must be because they haven't finalized contracts before they come out with an official announcement.
Yeah.
So I'm always hesitant now. I'm not going to. We've seen. I think it's War Chant. They've gotten burned 2 or 3 times on these major things are going to happen, and it didn't happen at all.
Yeah.
Hey, another interesting thing I saw. Guess who's back in the portal? I sent it to you, and that's Destin Hill. Remember how long in the drama that Florida State waited for Destin Hill, the man who was out of football for 2 years. He was going to set the fire on, at Florida State. Now he's in the portal with he was hurt again most of the season, and he had little or no production at LSU. And they probably told him, you need to move forward. You need to move on.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of, unless
mystery
he's told to
kid.
go, he kind of, he did it to himself by leaving Florida State, the team that kind of waited on him, and he should have never left Florida State. That was a mistake by him, if that was his call. But that was his best bet of ever doing anything, in my opinion. Now he's gonna have to probably step down a ways to find playing.
Well, he has to stay healthy. He probably has some ability, but he's going to have to step it down a little bit, level, and take what he can get and go and try to play some football.
Yeah, I mean,
look at his grades are horrible.
He's got 109 yards in 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years.
He was hurt,
and he has a lot of injuries. There's too many wide receivers out there with production. So
he should have stuck around. But but that's what we talked about. We say.
Yeah.
And it's not us who says it. I forgot who said it, but there's going to be thousands of kids who join the portal, and it'll be the last time they ever play football again. And that may be they joined a program, but because they left the program they've been with for 2 or 3 years, they may go and join somewhere else, but they never see the football field again. They may because they're never gonna get that starting spot back, or they may never get that rotational spot back. They may just be a benchmark for the rest of their career, and they may never play real football ever again, or
And can lose their scholarship.
Yeah, or like you said, may never get picked up because there's, like you said, someone showed a stat like just at the Division II level or FCS, there was already 3,000, 4,000 plus kids in the portal before it even opened, like putting in their paperwork. It's crazy. And it's just there's too many people entering and not enough spots. Tell
me how this shows up. Oh, that doesn't show up well at all, does it? I was trying to do it backwards because it never shows up right. No. Well, that's kind of. There's 1,988 in the portal right now, D1 portal.
Yeah.
1,988 in the portal. 33 have committed. This is according to On3 statistics. 33 out of those 1,988, that's 1.66%. So that's a lot of people looking for jobs.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Welcome to the real world.
Levitt hit the portal DNC tag. Yeah, DNC tag is the biggest indicator that they already have an offer in place, or
yes,
have a contract in place.
I've
seen a lot less players have that tag, or a lot less people announcing them with tags. But yeah, I think that's the biggest indicator, like you said, of there already being a deal in place. But I felt like there's been a lot less of that this year, or they've not been as public with it, which is interesting. But I think that's a good indication there's tampering before things happen. Lucas Simmons, who obviously is now not coming back because he's visiting other schools. Look at his visitor list. This is an interesting visitor list. So you go from Mississippi State, who's terrible, James Madison, who's good, G5, and then Georgia. I don't think Georgia's looking at Lucas Simmons.
Georgia. Who put that out?
24/7 said sources tell.
I don't believe it.
This is no offense to Lucas Simmons, but I don't think there's, based on this list, I don't think.
My God.
I don't. Georgia just doesn't fit the list. I don't know, but
he should look at. Well, I think Mississippi fits the list. Georgia Tech fits the list. Wisconsin, I don't see Wisconsin. He hasn't proven he's that physical. I think
Wisconsin isn't good.
Madison. If he can't play at James Madison or ODU, that's probably where he should look. And he could probably start for 2 years, I assume.
And they're good. They develop players. I mean,
I know, but they are not. They made the playoff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Going to a playoff team.
He's not going to play at Georgia. That would be the biggest mistake of his life.
He is not going to play at Georgia.
If they actually do offer him, which probably would be a preferred walk-on kind of thing,
he would play on the scout team. He would play on the scout team. That's where he would play.
Yeah, and that would be a mistake. So James Madison would probably be the best fit for him, because if he can get a role there, that would be great for development for him. But I thought that was
Tulane. Well, go to them.
They're not on the list. So yeah, that is that.
He is, to say about Lucas Simmons, he is an imposing figure. You see this guy and you see him in uniform. This guy's got he looks like an NFL guy. But what we have found here at Florida State, because you're a big, massive hunk of a football player, it doesn't mean your technique is any good. It doesn't mean you have the agility to move, to meet these elusive defensive players, and you're not powerful enough to just tear up everybody.
Another guy that is getting some visits is Cam Davis. So it looks like there's a crossover between that list. It looks like he schedules a visit with Wisconsin and Michigan State. So he's getting some interest.
Who, Cam Davis?
Which doesn't surprise me. I think those schools.
He looks like a football player. He just needs an opportunity.
Yeah, and I think he could go there, be rotational, potentially compete for a start. So yeah, I think those places make sense for him. Those are mid-level, bottom third Big Ten teams. We'll give him some TV time if he can compete and start there. So I think that makes sense for him, and that would be good landing spots for them. But these obviously indicate to me these are not retention pieces. Obviously, they're not fighting to get these guys back, and I think it's the best for those guys as well to move on and look for a starting position somewhere else if they can get them. What else is going on here? What else do I see? There is a lot of news coming out, and I think tomorrow and over the weekend you'll start to see a lot more guys committing. Oh, another name that familiar name that came out, Rodney Hill. Remember Rodney Hill at
Yes,
Arkansas?
I saw that. Yeah.
He's back in the portal.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's
Yeah.
not good when they talk about your former team, like 2 teams ago, FSU, former FSU back with 500.
Yeah.
Like the, yeah.
What did he
like
do
it.
at Arkansas? Anything? Did he get on the field?
I don't think he did anything there. Well, obviously I have a picture of him on the field, so that's a good sign. But
Well, that's a good sign.
So let's see what he did there. He had 36 yards this season.
Oh my God.
So not a great year for
And
him.
and Rodney Hill had gone to Florida A&M for a season, didn't he?
Well, no, I think he decided not to go there.
Oh,
and
he did?
then
Okay,
Ended
okay.
up, yeah.
It doesn't
remember,
matter
He
when-
committed there and then didn't go.
Yeah. He
went to
walked
Arkansas.
away from that.
It was like
yeah.
3 schools, I thought, sometime. Like he committed, I don't know.
Yeah.
But now he's back in. I liked what I did like what I saw from him in flashes at Florida State, but obviously he was never in the starting rotation.
You know who I was impressed with, and I know we're doing national and FSU. The back, he was not a big guy, but the back that Indiana has, this guy would hit. I sent you a tweet. Remember, I sent you an X. How quickly those guys hit the hole. Their backs hit those holes, and those guys opened up some pretty damn good holes. But they hit those holes so quick. They were through those holes. And I thought their running back, their main one, I don't remember his name, he was really good because he got to the line of scrimmage very quick and made some quick moves. And when they put their foot in to make a cut, they were gone. I was impressed with their running back situation there.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yep.
Trying to see what else we got going on here. Yeah, I think we another Florida State guy, Darius Jacobs. This was a highly rated recruit we got in who just really didn't put it together at Florida State, but he had a pretty decent year with South Carolina, 580 yards, 4 touchdowns. 1 year at Florida State, obviously didn't really get on the field in that 1 year. But he's in with them for 2 years. 500 yards is not bad. Would this be a guy that you would look at Florida State trying to get back since, you originally brought him in, didn't work out?
Nah. There's too many wide receivers out there that,
But if you're looking to replace like a Javion Boggs, who was a younger guy that, just left. I mean,
I understand what you're saying.
this guy knows the guy knows he knows the coach. Well, actually, most of the coaches that were with him were gone. So, it wouldn't necessarily be a homecoming, but he knows Norvell. But unless it's
you don't see too many guys who, once they've gone out to play for another team, they don't come back. Who can we name that has done that?
Biscuit.
Yeah. How did that work out?
I don't know. I don't know what Biscuit's doing.
And I'm not going to blame Biscuit totally. I'm going to blame the Gus Malzahn offense. I'd love to know how many balls they threw to the tight ends this season in 2025. And you don't have to look it up. Don't do the research. Maybe one of our loyal viewers out there will do that for us. But I'm just disappointed. I like a tight end who. I'm thinking, who was the tight end at Georgia? He went
45
catches or targets. 45 targets to the tight end over in a full season. If my son was a tight end, I wouldn't want him going to a school that doesn't throw him the football at least 4 or 5, maybe 4 times a game, minimum.
Yeah. I mean, 45 targets over how many games they play? 12. 12.
Oh,
games.
The guy I'm thinking of, Brock Bowers at Georgia. Oh my God. Or even Alabama's had some decent ones, and of course we had. What's his name? Why can't I get his name down? Nick O'Leary. Nick O'Leary likely was the best tight end. We haven't had a good tight end since Nick O'Leary, in my opinion. Pass catcher. And Jimbo was willing to throw him the ball, because this guy made some great catches. You know what that does to a defense? It ties up a linebacker and probably a strong safety when you have a good pass catching tight end. And also somebody you can dump the ball down to by the quarterback.
Well,
You know,
even when we brought in Jaheim Bell, it didn't feel like
they
they
didn't really do a good job with Jaheim Bell either.
like he
Not
had, well,
really.
Well, he had 500 yards that year, which is pretty
Yeah,
much
well,
better
that's
than Mike
good. That's
Norvell.
good. That's
So-
good production. That's
And
good
they,
production.
and he was a guy that they targeted to be like a star tight end, and he had 500 yards in
I
that 2023 year. That
The tight end for possession to get that first down and maybe a 10, 12, 15-yard pattern. I don't need this guy going to the end zone all the time. I just don't. He can block and he can get out to catch passes when they're not looking for him to be out there.
yeah,
I hope
Jaheim's
Landon
probably-
Thomas gets that chance.
Yeah, Jaheim's probably the last decent tight end we've used in a while. Yeah, you can see his targets. Like, you got targeted decently. Like, I think we could have probably gotten more out of him that year in 2023, but he's the last skilled, or not, I shouldn't say skilled, but he's the last tight end they used extensively, I would say, under Norvell that I can remember. I mean,
It's going to be very interesting to
Morlock.
see.
remember
Oh,
that?
more like, oh my God.
I don't know.
Oh my God.
What happened
Yeah.
to him?
It's going to be very interesting seeing what happens to Randy Pittman, how that goes in the portal.
Yeah.
I don't rule out that he wouldn't come back. I don't rule that out because he knows that room's pretty empty, and he could get some production. He knows Gus, and he could call Gus up and say, "Listen, I'm thinking of coming back. Is there a slot open?" And they'll take him in a minute.
If you're like,
no, I'm not saying overpay. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if a guy has to re-knock on your door, then you're not going to overpay. That's automatic once he goes out. You've already made your offer to Randy Pittman. He said to them, I want to go out and test the market. Can I call you back if I don't like what I see? And they said, yes. I guarantee that. Guaranteed.
they may have already allocated that money towards Landon. And they may have said, we've moved on. And we're going to go with Landon. We're going to go with Chase.
You know
Lofton.
what? They'd
We're gonna
find
go with-
money for Randy Pittman. That would be a good guy to get back. He's done a lot. He's played multiple roles. You want a guy like that on your team, but you're not going to overpay for it.
No.
Not given the theme of 2026.
No. Yeah. So those are
Yeah.
a lot of the big things
I think,
had.
that's pretty much it, I think,
Yeah, and things will evolve as we said. So we talked about a lot of the big visits that are coming up here. So stay tuned on those. There'll be a lot more scheduled as we talk about it. There was one thing I want to talk about here. The last thing I wanted to talk about here was in terms of the portal. And I thought it was a good statement. This guy's the AD at Louisiana Monroe in Louisiana. I guess that's in the name. But this guy, AD there, and I won't read the whole statement, but he kind of stresses that I would give a player having been on both sides of the portal process, don't mess up your life's money for a one-time bag. He says one school may be offering you $50K more than the other one did that you're at, but you got to think about things like, the credits you lose academically if you go to a new school. If you play in 3 places, you have no network anymore because you've broken that network jumping from school to school to school. And they're, as he says, they're not invested in your future success because they see you as a mercenary that you, like you've said multiple times over. So they don't care about what you do after you play for them that season. And with all these red shirts, it's important to think about your degree. Most of these kids are not going to play at the NFL level. Most of these kids only play at the CFL
1%.
level.
That's right.
So don't, go somewhere, like he says, where you can either, you can get your bag, but you also can get your degree. You got to think 2 steps ahead, two kind of stops ahead, essentially. And I like his note that just make sure the life-changing money is actually life-changing and not just briefly lifestyle changing. There's a lot of factors in play in terms of quality of life and cost of living. I thought that was a really, really important thing. And he talks about leveraging the portal to get more money out of your current school. And that does not work. That doesn't always work. And you're less likely in the portal to be less beneficial that way. You may be left out in the dust. You may be stuck in a worse position, destroying your network with less money and like you said, you may have never played football again. So I thought this was a really good statement by someone who's been on both sides of the portal. He's an AD out of school, and he, he's trying to speak some truth to this, and what's actually being done, because the agents don't care. Your agent doesn't care. Your agent's trying to get you the biggest bag possible, so he gets that percentage of it, right?
Absolutely.
But as you said, less than 1% of these kids will play at the next level. And all these agents is pushing them, hey, go to this school. They're offering you $50K more. They're offering you da-da-da. But is that truly life-changing money, or is it just lifestyle-changing money?
I got you. I think it's a good statement by that guy who wrote that and so on. Two things. I got two things, and I'm done. One is, let's just hit this for a minute, get our opinions. Champ saw something earlier that said Jordan Travis was going to be an FSU grad assistant. Has anyone seen or heard anything about it? I have not heard anything about that. That's been rumored for a long period of time. Jordan Travis has close connections with Mike Norvell, and I imagine he has close connections with the current quarterback's coach. Okay, and because all these guys put him on their resumes. Now, I'll finish quickly. That is, I don't think in the long run it's going to change anything about Florida State. They're not going to build a statue for Jordan Travis. And the main thing is, it wouldn't surprise me if Mike Norvell added him as a graduate assistant if they had a conversation that he wants to get into the coaching business. Okay? He certainly has played enough football to get into the coaching business as a graduate assistant. It would not shock me to see that happen for 2026. Yeah. Over to you.
This guy reported on the troll site, troll post. Like, this Number 3 Sports is a parody troll site. So, yeah, this isn't going to happen.
But it wouldn't surprise me.
No.
You're going to say it won't happen? It wouldn't surprise me.
No, it wouldn't surprise me because, like you said, he has credentials and he has the resume of
He's like Ordell Hagens. He is a fixture, a symbol for the program. Not in my eyes, but he is for the program.
Yeah, he's not going to go join an on-field assistant role. He could be an analyst, a GA.
Up in the booth, write notes, whatever.
But no, this is a troll site. But I could see him in some capacity working with Florida State with the quarterbacks because he's done it before. So, yeah, wouldn't surprise me. But this is a troll site, so nothing is official or happening yet. But yeah, we'll see you in the road. What is your other thing?
Yeah, I could see him doing that. Off the field for games, off the field during practices. Could he work with Speary? Could he work with the freshman coming in, O'Neal, and maybe a walk-on? Absolutely. When the other coaches are working with the other guys, if Jordan Travis wants to get out of the YouTube blog business with his brother, he has a route into football. But you start at the GA level, I would not be shocked to see that happen. The last thing I want to see, is this possible? Is this even possible? There's a guy in the portal. His name is Amir Foster, Jr., 5'10", 155, played at Columbus, Miami High School. He's at Southern Mississippi as a safety. Could that even be possible? You're playing safety at 155, 5'10"? That has to be wrong. How is that?
I think that's wrong. Why do you think that's wrong?
At 155 pounds, he weighs less than I do. I'm 5'10", 165.
I think it was wrong. It's 5'10", 180 pounds. I don't know where you're getting.
Well, it says 155 on 3, so I hope he hears this and gets that corrected. So that's not going to look good.
That's probably his prospect when he first signed at a high school or something. So
that's all. That's all I have. That's all I have at this point.
Yep.
Now wait, Champs. I don't know where Champs. I don't know where you're getting your information. You're a great loyal viewer on here. You're saying he talks to him on a weekly basis already. Where are you getting this shit from? Come on. I don't know about that. But we'll put it up there. I'm not saying it's valid because I put it up here, but interesting. But I wouldn't be surprised.
Yep. We'll see what happens.
All right.
Yeah, so obviously stay tuned. We'll probably have another show soon to update on what's going on, how the visits went. I'm hoping this weekend we'll get a couple of these guys who've come in to commit, especially on the offensive line. Hopefully the Hollywood Smothers visit goes well, and they pitch him a vision of what this room will look like and what the offensive strategy is going to be. And I think that would be a huge get. But I think he's a guy that will take a little bit longer because he's going to probably do his visits and he's going to get a lot of interest from guys out there. So yeah, stay tuned to us.
Last remark is Champ says that he listens to the podcast and Travis has said it on his podcast. Okay. If that's true, I don't listen to the podcast, but if that's true, I appreciate you putting the source out there for everybody, not just us, but everybody to see. And again, we appreciate everybody who was in here today. This went a lot longer than I thought, but there's going to be more coming, and we'll try to stay on top of it a little bit for you guys. We appreciate you guys so much.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you all for coming out. We appreciate your comments, your feedback. And if you're not watching this live, leave your comments below on the video to let us know what you think is the biggest news of the day and which recruits you think Florida State has to land as these scheduled visits come in. So thank you guys again. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe out there. And as always, go Noles. Go Noles. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. Stay safe. We'll see you soon.
Seminoles